YouTube, what's up? Back again for another daily fishing video here on Andrew Upshaw Fishing. Guys, today we're talking forward-facing sonar. Yes, we are. We're talking about it. We're going to talk about what I experienced at the Bassmaster Classic. And I talked to a bunch of you guys. I talked to a bunch of people in the industry. Talked to a bunch of anglers. I talked to a bunch of pro anglers. Where are we going from here? What is going on? We're going to talk about some of that today. But real fast, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure y'all do that. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. It's a little square. It says subscribe. Just click that subscribe button. Click that notification bell so you get notified every single time I post a video. But before we get started in all this, it's a somber reminder. Today we had a really big tragedy happen, and that was the Baltimore Bridge was hit by a big boat, and it collapsed, and a bunch of people didn't make it. And it's a really sad time, and we saw some really bad stuff happen from that. Baltimore is going to struggle a little bit. I mean, that was a really big highway and a big bridge. I've been over it. I've been under it. I've been in that area quite a few times, and it's just a really sad reminder that, we're just not given tomorrow. So if you get a chance, say a prayer for those guys. I know I have. It's just a really sad deal. I hate to say it. I mean, it's just no other way to put it. You just never know when something like that's going to happen. And I don't even know how you'd be prepared for that. I know I wouldn't. I mean, the bridge collapsed 185 feet. And the fact is, I did see earlier, I don't know if it's confirmed or not, so it's unofficial, I guess, that 2 people were rescued from it. So that's really awesome. So huge shout out to our first responders for getting those people back in case and if they did. So just a super sad deal. And I have just as much info as everybody else. It's just you go turn on the news. It's really terrible. But let's get into forward-facing sonar. It was the biggest buzz of the Bassmaster Classic was forward-facing sonar. It was like you either hated it or you loved it. And I say that, and it's not that is the most inaccurate statement that I think any of us could say. There's a generated buzz of hate towards forward-facing sonar. I'm not going to name names. Everybody knows who they are. That people that just absolutely despise it. They talk about it 24/7. They talk about all the people that use it. They make fun of them. They disgrace them. They try to put asterisks on things. The fact is, Justin Hamner went out there and dominated the Classic and won it. He didn't catch 30 pounds a day. He didn't catch 25 pounds a day. He didn't even catch 20 pounds a day. He caught 22, 20, and 16. That's a Grand Lake, guys. Grand Lake has some big fish in it. It has a lot of fish in it. It was evident in the Classic that you did not have to go use forward-facing sonar to catch them. Did Jason Christie catch them? No, but that doesn't mean anything. He's a local. Locals don't always catch them every time. He's literally finished second in the Classic there, I think, 2 different times. He's basically given up all his early spring stuff 2 different times. So he's having to find all new stuff now to go be able to compete. Whereas he used to be able to just run all his old stuff. He doesn't have that anymore, and that's what people don't understand. But guys that I expected to do well, for the most part, did pretty good. Hamner won. He was one of the people I picked on Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing. Joey Nania, he caught him decent. I mean, I don't think he made the cut, but he had a decent tournament, among a lot of others. Christie ended up even finishing 12th. I mean, so... And you look at Hank Cherry. Hank Cherry wasn't using forward-facing sonar. He's skipping a jig on walkways and boat docks and throwing a chatterbait around. There was guys that caught him really good without using sonar. So just so we're clear there, that it wasn't an overall dominated event by forward-facing sonar. It actually set up to be one, but it didn't. So, which is really good. That's good for our industry. But the big buzz at the Classic was... Is it going to be banned? Is it not going to be banned? What are we going to do? Where do we go from here? And the overall consensus here is that it's not going away. I mean, I'm going to tell you straight up, guys. And if you haven't watched a couple of my previous videos, because I haven't done just a ton of videos on this. If you haven't watched some of my previous videos, I'm not the biggest of fans of this. I repeat, I am not the biggest of fans of this. I miss old school fishing. I miss going down the bank. I miss getting offshore, cranking ledges, and doing some of that stuff like we used to. I miss having to go sight fish with your eyes. I miss those things. But the reality is, we are in a position right now that we have to adapt or die in this industry. I've recognized it. I understand it. I had somebody actually, I made a video the other day about catching the crappie off a bed. And if you didn't watch that one, you should watch it, and just so you can learn a big lesson from me. But I've had to adapt my game. And the guy said, "Why didn't you?" He commented, he's like, "Why didn't you just use your eyes like a normal person and sight fish that fish and know it was a crappie or a bass?" Well, dude, the bass was in like 5 or 6 foot of water. You could see about 3 foot down. So that kind of, just kind of erupts that point. And the fact is I'm trying to adapt. Am I the best at adapting yet? Absolutely not. And I won't be that one that says that, hey, I'm the best at it. I'm getting better. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better at it. It's really hard to forget everything that you knew going forward. And I say that with a grain of salt. You don't have to forget everything. You don't have to stop fishing the bank. You don't have to stop fishing the way that you always fished. But there are situations where using that sonar is going to be better than not using that sonar. And that's just a fact of the matter. And there's going to be tournaments that it's going to be dominated by, and there's going to be tournaments that are going to be dominated by just fishing. And understanding which one is which is probably the hardest part for me, because I'll go out there and I'll go practice and I'll go do what I like to do, and I'll get bit, and then I'll go forward-facing sonar, and I'll get a few bites too, and it's like, okay, now which direction do I go? Do I go with the tried and true where I've always caught them and how I've always caught them, or do I just roll the dice and go fish that way? So it's a really interesting point where we're at right now in the industry. I actually talked to one pro angler. I'm not going to name his name. He's a really good friend of mine. He fished Red Crest, and he didn't have a very good tournament. And that's just how we go sometimes. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. And he had dedicated a lot of his practice to using forward-facing sonar, and one day he went up and threw, I don't even know what he threw, but he went and did what he likes to do, which is fish the bank, fish the grass, that kind of stuff, and he had 22 bites that evening or that afternoon or whatever day it was of practice. And he told me, he said, "Dude, I knew how it was going to go down. I knew that those fish out there were going to be good, but," he said, "I also knew that I could get, if I could get my bites, even if I got half the bites, there was a really good chance I'd have a really good way into the cut." Long story short, he decided to go fish his strengths, which was fishing shallow, do those kind of things, and he got burned by it. The water was warming, the weather was warming, should have been the perfect storm, but it wasn't. And the reality is that's just how it goes sometimes. But I say all that to say this. Right now, we have an enormous amount of hate for this technology. I understand that some people think it takes away from the sport of fishing. And maybe it does to a certain level. Maybe it takes away from what we learned 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even 10 years ago. But what it also has done is it's opened our eyes to just how these fish move and migrate. And if anything, it's proven a lot of these guys that have talked for years and years and thought they knew what they were talking about, it's proved them all wrong. And maybe they don't like that. Maybe they don't like being proved wrong and prove that they don't know what the heck they were talking about. Maybe they were just guessing. Maybe because we're all running off hypothesis anyway, and all forward-facing sonar's done is expose that. But the reality is, when you're taking an educated guess and you're saying, okay, I'm pretty sure this is why they're here, and for this reason, yeah, there were some fish there, but there was 90% of them were right over there, out in the middle chasing bait. So what it's done is it's opened our eyes. And if anything forward-facing sonar has done is it's opened our eyes. Once again, not the biggest of fans of it, and maybe that's because I'm not the best at it. Maybe I need to get better at it, and maybe that will be the catalyst that puts me over the edge and makes me feel better about it. But I'm going to tell you right now, the only way that this stuff goes away, the only way, is if state and local governments get involved. And quite honestly, it's such a small topic for most of them, I don't believe that it will. I really don't. So I do think you're going to start seeing limits of electronics on technology. I don't think that's going to go away, though. So buckle up, guys. We're here to stay. It's going to stay. You better get good at it. And if you don't, you might as well not be fishing. And for all the haters of the Bassmaster Classic, talking trash on the guy who won and saying he deserves an asterisk. Hey, real fast, were y'all in the Classic? I'm waiting. I don't think any of you were in the Classic. So all you guys that are butthurt the fact that you didn't make the Classic, you weren't fishing the Classic, and you probably will never qualify for a Classic, yeah, your arguments kind of erupt at that point, because those guys did. A guy won using it that has earned his way up there. By the way, Justin Hamner is one of the most natural fishermen that I've ever seen, and is a great fisherman, understands tech, but also understands how to catch bass, has adapted both into his game. Fantastic fisherman. Just so everybody is clear there. He's not just some video game guy that decided, hey, one day I'm going to go fish the Bassmaster Classic and win it at 16 years old. No. The dude has earned his way up. He's been catching them. He caught them way before forward-facing sonar existed, and he will catch them after it goes away. I can assure you that. So, for all those haters, there you go. That's my 2 cents on it. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hate for it to be controversial, but the fact of the matter is there's so much hate towards these people, and I don't understand. I just don't get it, because they didn't do anything. They're just adapting their game just like anybody else would. Just like I am, just like any other pro angler would do in that situation. So, guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope I got to see it at the Bassmaster Classic. If I didn't, make sure y'all come next year. It is going to be in Dallas, and it is going to be a good one. So, until next time, guys, I'll see you on the next video.